In this lesson, we're going to talk about the different colors that you can play over major chords. Now, a lot of players, when they're playing major chords, will stick to major 7 or major 9, for example. But there are some other colors that you can add to this chord to give it a different sound while you're improvising. We're going to get these sounds using triads over bass notes. So the first chord will be C major 7, which will be an E minor triad over a C. Then we'll move on to a C major 9, which will be a G triad over C. Our next chord will be a major 7 sharp 11, or a Lydian sound, which will be a D triad over a C. The next sound is going to be a Lydian augmented sound, or a major 7 sharp 5 sound, which will be an E triad over C. And our last sound will be a diminished major 7 chord, which will be a B triad over C. So your first thing to practice is playing through all of the colors of C major, playing major 7, major 9, Lydian, Lydian augmented, and diminished major 7. And I recommend playing these sounds over and over again until you can really get these chords till they're smooth, because when we're comping, we might use many of these, like this. Get it to the point where your fingers move to the chords very quickly, like that. Now here's the concept. When you're playing a tune and you resolve to a major chord, so for example, D minor to G7 altered to C major, what we're going to do is play all of the colors back to back to create a major sound with 4 different colors that happen right after one another. So for example, 2, 5, 1. The idea is to play them back to back so you hear all these different colors happening on a major chord. So when you're playing in a trio, for example, and you want to create some tension to the chord on the one chord, you don't want it to resolve to that very bright major sound. You want some tension in the sound. You can use this technique. Play G triad over C, D triad, E triad, B triad, and then back to G to resolve. That was an example of how I might do it when I'm comping. I'll play the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and I'll play them all very quickly to create that color shift on the 1 chord. First step for me is to play chords first, so you really understand what's happening harmonically here. Playing chords helps you to hear the sound more clearly. It also helps you to visualize the shapes that you're going to use when you play lines. Now let's move on to lines. Okay, all we have to do here is to take these shapes that are in the chords and simply arpeggiate them in a line. So for example, G triad, okay, D triad, E triad, B triad, resolution. So you might want to practice an exercise where you go chords, arpeggios, back and forth. So far we've been playing these chords in one order, but you don't have to play them G, D, E, B. I was just basically playing them in order of brightness The G chord, the major 9, is extremely bright. Then a Lydian sound, then a Lydian sharp 5 sound, which gets a little bit darker, and then the diminished major 7, which I would consider to be darker than that. So I was just basically taking it from a very consonant bright sound and adding tensions to the chord as I went until it got to its darkest point, and then you resolve it back to a G over C. So you can experiment with the order of the chords. Try G over C, to E over C, to D over C, to B over C, then back to G over C. You can use any order of these chords. So what I suggest that you do is try a bunch of different variations of this and find out what some of your favorites are and start to practice the chords and the lines for those. So now let's put this material into the context of a chord progression. Let's take 2-5-1 as it's the most common progression in jazz standards. So let's take D minor to G7 altered to C major. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll improvise a line over the 2 chord like this. Then I'll improvise a line over the G altered chord. Then play the triad sequence. And then resolve. So it will sound like this. 2, 5, triad sequence. So the chords will be, then you'll go through your sequence like that. You can see from that example, on the D minor chord, I played an A minor pentatonic. Okay. Then on the G7 chord, I played an arpeggio. And then a G, D, E, B resolution. Then you can experiment with playing triads at different places. G, D, E, B, resolution.